I have never felt so energized and invigorated about my business.
Tom, just tell me a bit about yourself.
I suppose I'm most well known as my job as a musician, full-time working musician, and pushing my piano around and entertaining lovely people with good old-fashioned Cockney sing-alongs.
Amazing. Yes. Now, um, we I first became aware of you, Tom, through two lovely bits of happenstance. First of all, you performed at a friend of mine's wedding. But if we fast forward from there about a couple of weeks, you then appear in my podcast feed. That was what first made me go, "Oh, I wonder what this guy's up to." What was it that prompted you to move from being aware of me to actually coming on board and investigating getting some coaching?
Well, it was, I suppose, I think you commented on something on a post from the Twice Nightly podcast. And as you do, as you think, oh, someone's made a nice comment, I'll click through to the link and saw your Instagram profile. And oh my God, it was like you were talking directly to me. These little videos that I was scrolling through, every one hit me. And it was like, whoa. And you know when something really resonates at that moment in time, everything you talked about being a performer, being on the hamster wheel, having the same gigs, wanting to make the next step. And literally you spoke to me in that moment and I was like, I need to chat with this guy. And so set it up. I think my first interaction with you after that was doing your online quiz,
Yeah.
which again was the first time in forever where I'd actually kind of really started to consider my job as a business. I'd always been a self-employed musician. Back in my early career, kind of 10 years working as a theatre musician, as a pit musician, I'd always been an employee. And although being self-employed, being employed on long contracts. So I'd always kind of just got used to that and the way that gigs came through recommendation. And then over the last 10 years, I've been making a living pretty much full-time as a self-employed kind of gigging musician, specifically with the sing-along and in the kind of musical genre. But yeah, it was those kind of things about considering as a business, considering myself being every part of that business. So I'm the worker, I'm the manager, I'm the CEO, kind of thinking about, and I have to say I was embarrassed that I didn't have the next 5 years planned or the next 10 years planned, or actually any ideas of where my goals were. I knew that my career was kind of moving on and work was building and the profile of the gigs I was doing was increasing, but I'd never really thought about myself as a business. And so, yeah, I think it was just about your voice in those videos speaking to me at that moment that I was just like, no, I've got to investigate this.
Great. Oh, thank you, Tom. That's really interesting. So thinking back to uh briefly thinking back to those days, that sort of moment where you first came into contact with that and thought about getting in touch. Just describe to me a little bit more, uh, how were things in your business then? What were the challenges that you were aware of at the time?
The challenges for me when I first came to you, John, were really, I think you summed it up in one of your videos, again, the one that resonated with me, about this idea of being on a hamster wheel. I'd kind of got into the same routine of gigs. I got a couple of residencies, my kind of regular level of gigs, private parties and working men's clubs and things were all kind of just, and they were breeding the same kind of gigs. I didn't have the time to be creative. I mean, over the last 10 years, I've recorded a couple of albums and I've put together new shows, but that was never a focus about creating new work. It was always just a kind of a gradual progression. So definitely that feeling of being stagnant, I suppose, feeling like I was playing at this level and I would never get beyond that. Lack of creativity or lack of the time to be creative. Interestingly, thinking back to then, I was working really hard. I
Mm,
was working. I hadn't got holidays booked. I would often take gigs over family time. I didn't feel like I had a great work-life balance. I didn't feel like I was kind of prioritizing my well-being against working. So yeah, actually, yeah, looking at the diary before I'd worked with you, John, the diary was full. I mean, like chocker, like 3 gig days, 2 gig days, and I was making okay money, but there was something that it was getting to that point where something needed to give.
What was your experience of being coached? And maybe we can start with, had you ever had any coaching or anything like that before? And then what was it like coming on board?
Completely new to coaching for me. When we started the coach, or when we discussed kind of collaborating and taking on your services, John, I was a bit nervous, was kind of really unaware of how it worked. But I have to say, I had experiences years ago of delving a little bit into NLP, the idea of kind of, yeah, understanding the way your brain thinks and how perhaps in learning how to tweak that, you could get better outcomes.
Great. Thank you, Tom. So what were your big strategic goals for the year that we were set to work with each other? I know that's an interesting question because, of course, we're now at the end of that year and you've already moved on. But let's see if we can pull those out.
I mean, and some of them have changed over that time, as things do. Plans change, but the goals we had were, let me get this right, more better paying gigs,
Yeah.
some sense of financial security, and building towards. For me, it was about primarily building towards a cruise ship show. So I had my solo act, very much on a kind of similar kind of pub piano gig, working men's club, private parties kind of scene. I'd wanted to elevate that to the next level and pitch that to as a guest ents spot for cruise ships. Which then that meant then getting arrangements done and creating the show for that, and which has then given kind of byproducts. But yeah, I've done. I think we've ticked the boxes, all of those. Oh, and also, an important one I think also was to do with family, work-life balance, and making sure that I was in control. I think one of the things that I felt empowered with over the last year is I feel more in control. Before, gigs came in, I took the gigs as they came in. I hated to turn stuff down, so I would do stuff even if it meant that I was doing ludicrous miles in the van or getting up, just crazy things, because as a self-employed musician, you're always thinking about when's the phone going to ring. So but now after the year, feeling a lot more confident, I can pick and choose what I want to do. One of the rules I live by now is if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. I need to give myself time to be creative, and that might even just be have time to be at home, to enjoy my lovely house I've got, spend time with my wife and my son. And I've had a few things over the last few months, I suppose, where I've had a Saturday night or a Friday night off. And again, we talked about this in the coaching for one of the sessions, was like a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, I would have been kicking myself saying, why am I not out? Why am I not gigging? I feel guilty sitting on my sofa and not being out earning. Whereas now I can look at it and think, you know what? It's nice to have a Friday night off. This is lovely. No stress, because I know that the financial security stuff is in place. I know that in just looking through my accounts and chatting with you, John, that we changed my mindset, that actually for the last X number of months, I've had this amount of money coming in. It's like, I am financially secure. As much as I might occasionally be getting down low to the bottom of my bank account, I know I've got this in savings. I know I've got my tax savings in place. I know I've got these savings goals. It's like, yeah, there is nothing to say that I'm not financially secure. I am. If I had issues and couldn't work for a month, that I could just about get by. Those kind of things are covered. So yeah, that's kind of brought me a real sense of kind of peace and serenity, just to know that I'm financially secure and I can take time off to look after myself and prioritize family stuff, or even just own kind of well-being.
What do you think? What do you think made the difference?
I think the realization that to get to those goals, and I'd never really analyzed that, but to get to there, that is just a ladder. That is just a stepwise progression of achievements. And when you break that down to the tiniest things, so that could be send an email to this person that you already know and you've already had a contact with for their advice, or meet up with this person for a coffee, or do some research on this, do some research on the cruise ship lineups, or do some research on what I need to do to package my show well for a cruise ship pitch. These are all achievable things. Tidying up my social media, getting a social media plan in action. All these are like stepwise little, like, you can do it. You can grab a cup of tea and you can sit down for an hour or two and you can get that done. And if that's done, it's ticked off the list and you're on to the next one. So I think that realization that these mammoth Everest kind of tasks can be broken down into, well, it's the Everest tasks that are broken down into the base camp, camp 1, camp 2, but between those kind of nice way markers. So for example, the cruise ship thing, yeah, cruise ships at the top, nice cruise ship, regular cruise ship gigs at the top. Below that is actually getting the cruise ship gig. Below that is getting the show ready for that. But below that is getting the charts ready. And so, yeah, I've already done that. I'm on the way. It's like, I'm on the way up. They're just stepwise thing. And so that realization and working through with you, John, and I have to say something about the accountability of working with a coach. That's one thing that I've really benefited from, and actually I think may inform me in other things. It's like, I'd like to kind of do some exercise and get some personal training possibly. And it's like, yeah, the accountability that you've given me, John, and that conversation we've had and keeping up to date, and me kind of feeding into you what I've been up to, and any kind of issues along the way that we be able to bounce stuff off, which has been really helpful. That accountability has been immense, and I know it works for me because not that you're on my back about it, but like, yeah, if we sit down in a session and we set some goals and some dates and some times, I know I want to get it done. And I think in having the coaching with you, it's just given me a real energy and a kind of it's invigorated my work, that I feel like I can get. And equally, even within the first couple of weeks, maybe that first month of our coaching, I'd got onto things that I hadn't dealt with, that had been on my to-do list for so long, but that, yeah, I was like, actually, no, I can plow that out. And I can do that. And yeah, if I do that, then that's done and that's off my list. And that builds that level up to going to the next step. So yeah, the accountability has been great. But also, yeah, that breaking those big goals down into smaller kind of strategic things has been a real help, and will inform the way that I go forward, and the way that I approach and deal with new problems and new opportunities. Also, one of the things that surprised me, John, with the coaching, again, having had no experience of kind of business coaching in the past, is actually none of the ideas were yours. They were all my ideas. They were all up here already. My brain knows how to develop a show, how to write a book, but there was something about the methods and that you use, yeah, just set me in good stead to do that. It gave me the opportunity to get all that stuff out of my brain, work out the plan of action to do that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just been a revelation. But yeah, it just all surprises me thinking back on that it's all been up here myself. It's just about you giving me the tools to process that and get it down on paper, build myself a plan, and reassure myself, I suppose, that I can do this.
The bringing up that point about the ideas coming from you, which is really important. It's a big difference between the coaching that we do and maybe someone else who is perhaps a consultant or a mentor, some of these
Absolutely.
other. And what's most interesting to me about how you describe that is, prior to our first conversations, you, even though you had the know-how locked away somewhere in your brain, it was locked away too far away, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was on the hamster wheel. I was fighting fires here. I wasn't dealing with all of this. I wasn't thinking 100 meters down the road or 200. I was literally I was firefighting for this, for the gigs, and spinning plates. Which I feel like I'm still doing a little bit now because I've got so much stuff on the go, but I feel so much more in control. I know that I can leave that plate on. I'm one for imagery. Maybe that's why the kind of the work with you, John, has been such a revelation for me. Is that I think in images. So it's like, yeah, in spinning plates, it's like, now I know that, again, with the financial security thing, it's like, I know I can let that plate on that end slow down a bit and it's not going to fall off, while I focus on these two. But then I will get down to be spinning that one at some point. But yeah, just that feeling of being in control,
Great.
which I feel now, as opposed to being that kind of a year ago.
That's great.
There's your soundbite, John.
That's it. I might sample that actually and use it in all.
Hamster wheel, headless chicken, running around and actually wasting energy because you're doing stuff that you think you should be doing that actually don't lead towards those strategic goals. One of the things that, again, we did a session on, I remember, is about, I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with lots of things, work, family, blah blah blah. And a thing about visualizing, about being in control, about I'm not going to deal with this stuff. I'm going to deal with this stuff here that I'm in control of. I have complete control of that, and I can deal with that. This stuff of the other sides, I'm not going to worry about. If it impinges or whatever, then I can deal with it when it comes. But there is no need to be dealing with that at this very moment. And you know what? Quite a lot of the stuff on the sides didn't need dealing with at all anyway. It was just a mental thing. My brain was saying, "This is, oh, you need to sort this out." It's fine. It's all ticking along. Or hey, some of it's even just fallen off. There's no worry about it anymore. It's not even part of my view. So just that ability to concentrate and focus on my goals, and not letting other people's priorities affect you. So again, it's always the same with kind of clients. You get those kind of clients, the kind of, I don't do a huge amount of weddings, but those kind of like bridezillas, the kind of, it's all kind of, and just being able to trust in the fact that, and explain to them that it's like, I've done this a few times before. I know what works. Same with corporate clients, I suppose, as well, or anything. It's just like, I'm confident. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I know it. I know how it works. You want me to do this? That's not going to work from my experience. If I do this in this way, then it will. So just being confident about that, and not letting these other kind of time-eating things, clients, or things you think you should be doing because everybody else is doing, not letting that pull you away from actually, well, no, if I want to get to this goal and I'm doing that, well, I'm going to focus on this at the moment. I mean, I've had some great experience with social media stuff over the last year, just some short form video that have gone viral on TikTok, and a great response on Instagram. And that was brilliant. That did what it did between kind of in the autumn. I will get back to doing some more of that soon, but at the moment, that's all evergreen content. That's ticking over. That's not my focus at the moment. I've got to focus elsewhere. That will come back at some point, but it's that being in control of it. Feeling like I'm actually steering the ship. I'm on the rudder. I know exactly where we're going. And yeah, that brings a true sense of calm, and as opposed to this headless chicken or hamster wheel where it was just same old, same old.
Great, Tom. That's fab. Thank you. Let's just switch gears slightly, and let's have a think about some of the actual things that you did during the year. So you can tell me perhaps about some of the goals achieved. Also, what were some of the activities that you started doing, and what were some activities that you stopped doing as a result of coming to the coaching?
Oh, let's have a think. I mean, instantly, the first one that springs to mind, I got a pay rise at my residency.
So you did, yeah.
A weekly residency, and I managed to get a 50 quid pay rise every week. So you top that up over the year, what's that, it's like $2,500 or whatever. It's like, for very little Well, it wasn't very little effort. We talked in the coaching about having to deal with it. And actually, one of the things that I'm taking away from this year is that ability to talk money, to talk finances with people, which I
Mm.
felt really uncomfortable with before. But now having a knowledge of my worth and just being confident in being able to negotiate contracts or negotiate money.
On
So
that, sorry,
yeah,
just sticking with that, I've just had another flashback to one of our early conversations. Do you remember the first time that we talked about the finance? Right, good, you do. So the first time that we had a conversation and it was around the financial security goal and how you were gonna get there, um, do you remember that conversation, where I was drawing out of you what a comfortable amount of money
yeah.
might be to earn? And do you remember how, that it took a
It
little
was like
work?
pulling teeth, wasn't it, John?
Yeah.
So you can say it was like pulling teeth. Yes, because I wasn't confident in what I could charge. It's like this is what I'm worth, and also the way that informs what gigs I'm doing. Yeah, feeling more confident now about talking about fees and negotiating, which
Mm.
again has been a huge benefit over the last year, and it's just yeah again meant that my turnover's up and I've made in excess of your charges, John. So it's like that was like initially in that getting a pay rise from my residency, I almost paid for the coaching for the year. So it's like again going back to that feeling of financial security, there is no reason for me to be worried.
As the process went on over the year, you you realized other things, didn't you? And then ended up changing course a little over the year and realizing things and then achieving those things. And what I'm thinking about specifically, um, is that you had a goal of bigger gigs. Could you talk a little bit about what it was like, um, even though we set up that vision at the start as our big goal, being able to be flexible and realizing things throughout the year and that kind of stuff?
Flexibility has been really important over the last year, and it's in through making those progressions towards a goal. When you realise actually there's a sideline we can move down here, or seeing a sideline and realizing that actually no, we're not gonna go down that route at the moment. So things like in preparing the sing along show for cruise ships, it's like I've got band charts for a 6-piece band. It's like, hey, I could just do a gig with this. So um I've now got a band, my China Plates. And we did a sold out gig at Wilton's Music Hall in January. As a byproduct, if you'd said to me a year prior to that I would have my own band, my own 6-piece band, and we would do gigs in this country, I'd be like, no chance, no chance. And I do. It's just all a byproduct of this ultimate goal. And we've got some other bookings. We're doing some promo filming in a couple of weeks. We've got a festival booking at the end of August. Already inquiries for next year with the band. So although that won't be my primary focus, and I think I'll still be doing the solo shows and performing other solo shows that I've developed again this year, other branches to my sing along kind of portfolio. Yeah, that's been a really exciting branch off. And I think if we hadn't had that flexibility and I'd just been eyes on the prize, I wouldn't have found that benefit of doing well, financial benefit as much as anything. We're back at Wilton's Music Hall for 2 shows in July.
Wow.
Already almost kind of like what are we 60% sold out on both of them.
So, Tom, at the end of the process now, having done a year and made all those changes and achieved all those things and set yourself up to carry on uh, achieving things in the future, um, what's the biggest thing that has changed for you in that year?
I think it is having a much better work-life balance. Because that is the product of a lot of the work we've done. So the better paid gigs, which means I don't have to be doing so many other smaller ones. I mean I've been a bit of a nerd on productivity stuff over the last few years, trying to get better at batching things and time management. but I'd never really managed to implement any of those. So those kind of things about batching, time management, focusing on having better paid gigs so I'm not trekking all over the country, having days off, which I'd never had before. I've started walking every day because getting away from my sedentary job. And only just realizing, looking at my statistics over the last few weeks, I'm on average out walking for about 9 hours a week.
Correct.
That's 9 hours that I didn't think I had before. These are 9 hours that I've carved out in my week, 9 hours in a week that I'm just like, if you'd said to me a year ago, could I find 9 hours in a week? I'd be like, no chance. No chance. Being at home more, making sure I've got Sundays and Mondays off, so I've got days off. Trying to keep Tuesdays and Wednesday nights free as much as anything as well. So I've got family time, eating dinner with the family. And then I always know I'm going to be double gigging on a Thursday, pretty much double gigging on a Friday, and a single gig on a Saturday. Because of increased gig fees, I am kind of earning the same amount as when before I was doing so much more. So yeah, managing to find some time for myself, to read, to pursue my other interests, or equally to pursue that, have that time to be creative, to be doing what I should be doing. I'm a creative. I shouldn't be just sitting doing admin. The byproduct is I've got more time. I've got some of this work-life balance and the family stuff, which was one of the original goals.
I remember one of the things that you asked about was, when you were considering coming on board, was how much time would you need to put into it to make the changes? I think I'm remembering this correctly, that my reply to you even at that time was, well, actually, what most people find is they end up with more time, not less time, when they're doing.
Again, it's that focusing on building of those strategic goals, that if you know what you're focusing on there, that almost everything to the either side you can forget about.
Yeah.
That actually, and one of the early things we did was time was we were talking a bit about productivity and kind of time management, about bounding out my bounding out my time. It was like, I've got an email footer that says I deal with gig inquiries on a Tuesday. If your gig is more urgent than that, then give me a call. Here's my number. Call me. But if it's not, I deal with my gig inquiries on a Tuesday. And just setting that stall out has been a revelation.
Yeah, good lessons for all of us out there. Finally, to anyone that's watching this or listening to this and is investigating the possibility of making some changes to how they work, considering coaching, what would you say to them, slash, what would you say to yourself 2 years ago, say, to get you to come on board?
I would say I have never felt so energized and invigorated about my business. And I'm putting, it's not my work, it's my business now. After this year, I feel so much more passionate, enthused, excited about where it's going. If you want that, trust the process. It works. And yeah, to see where I've come in the last year has been a huge change. It's twisted my business completely. And I feel like I'm on a trajectory going even further now, and that I've got the tools to do that.